So I get asked this question a lot of what does it look like when I talk to the Morrigan? What is that experience like? So I figured I would show you today, at least a little bit, and then tell you the things that I can't show you. First of all, and how it started was tarot and this particular deck. So my very first tarot deck that I ever got was Dreams of Gaia, which is the deck that you're going to see. And this deck is always hers. She owns this deck. Her energy's been woven to this deck. So anytime I use this deck, it's the Morrigan. Now, I know a lot of people, they use tarot in different ways. They, are asking questions, divining future, what's going to happen. I primarily use my tarot for questions and stories. So I do ask questions. It's generally not the future or, if I do this specific thing, what will happen kind of future. I'm asking questions like, where are we at on the path? What are we, what do I need to focus on today? And my absolute favorite is tell me stories. So if you've never done tell me a story with your tarot, I highly advise that you do that. Whether you're talking to your higher self, whether you're talking with a deity, whether you're talking with another spirit, whoever you're talking with through your tarot, ask them to tell you a story. Tell you a story about themselves. Tell you a story about, an idea or a concept or an emotion or anything. It is the absolute best thing. And they will tell you a story. And it's fabulous. The Morrigan, everybody, just because she's a dark goddess, and she is a dark goddess, and she does have a lot to do with the death and rebirth aspects, at least from my experience and my relationship with her. Very much about cycles, very much about conflict resolution and things of that nature. But that's not all she is. She is a shapeshifter. She has numerous sides to her. And I will tell you, she is hilarious. I absolutely crack up sometimes with her because she will tell me a story and is just so blatant, so in your face, or there's just such a deep humor there. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because of how deep our relationship is and the way that I talk with her and the way that I approach her that I get that humor. I don't know, but I will say that she is hilarious. Absolutely. Just cracks me up. So this morning, I just asked her to tell me a story about anything. And as usual, she is very precise. And it did crack me up at the end. And I'll tell you why when we get to the end. So this is what we were talking about this morning through cards. So here, she's talking about, the counselor and my sacred self. This is my job in the world. This is what she tells me all the time. This is my purpose. And it's not counselor in the way that we think of counselors now. It's to listen, to be her voice, help other people when I can, and just be that open person that others can be comfortable with, that they can ask questions of without feeling that, they're going to be put down or made fun of or whatever, harassed for whatever reason. So this is really speaking to my physical world, my outside world, and its purpose. So as far as my spiritual and my inner and myself, mastery of self-power. And that's true because she is all about my growth. We talk about that they want all these things from us, but the thing that the Morrigan demands from me more than anything else is my personal growth, to keep pushing myself, keep growing, and keep transforming. These 3 cards are funny. Okay, so over here, I'm going to start over on this side. These are not choices. These are not conscious choices, and these are not choices that I get to make. These are just the things that are going to happen, and they are just the things that I am doing, period. And so I know some people would have a problem with that. I don't. When it comes from the Morrigan, I don't. We have a very specific relationship. It has been built over a very long time. And so when she tells me that I don't have a choice, I don't feel this need to buck her on that. I'm just like, okay, I get it. And I do get it. Because the heaven and earth, that's all about above and below, within and without. It's the seen and the unseen. It's that duality between all of it. And no matter what I do, no matter what you do, no matter what anybody does, that is always going to exist. Whether we acknowledge it or not is a completely different thing. But that doesn't make it not exist just because we don't acknowledge it. The second one is, this one is all about cycles and balance and growing the roots in the tree. It's about our foundations, structure. And these are all the things that I have built with the Morrigan. All of my moral set, my practice, my spirituality, my beliefs, my faith has all been built with the Morrigan. And so I built all these structure pieces with her. My structure is non-negotiable anymore. It may have some tweaks to it as I grow and gain more information, and so that concept grows. But my foundations are pretty set with her, and they're not things that change unless I'm at a place and have grown enough where I need something to change. But that's a long process. It's not like I wake up and like, okay, this doesn't work, so we need to get rid of it. It's, this doesn't work, and why isn't this working? Why does this not work anymore? What are the problems around it? Because generally, it's not the structure, it's something we have built on top of it. So this is the card that cracks me up. Okay, this is the seneschal card. So when she's being direct and when she's, pointing at me or just really wants to grab my attention, she'll put out the seneschal card because that's me in this deck. Hers is the crone. Anytime that shows up, it is her. Yesterday, we did a reading. And she was hilarious because she was like, it's all about me. And I could hear her in my head, it's all about me. And it was all about her. So yeah, I kind of feel that she sticks these ones in order to, just give me a smile and a laugh and catch my attention and be very blunt about that. Tarot was how I started communicating with the Morrigan. It was my first tool and my first way of connecting with her, my first way of being able to hear and understand her. After that, I started getting little snippets. So after a while of really conversating and building bond with her in communicating with tarot, I started to hear her voice a little bit. Just, a word or a phrase, that type of thing. And it's not like somebody coming up to you and talking next to you. It's in your head, but it's like really far back, and it's not your voice. It's not the other inner voice that's inside of you that you debate and argue with all the time. It was something different, very something outside. And I had already gotten to know what the feeling of her energy was by conversating through the cards. So I could feel her as I talked to her. And when that voice came, it was that same energy around me. And so I just automatically knew it was her. From there, I started doing trance work. And I want to explain my process of doing trance, because I explained to someone recently and they'd never heard it that way. And so it made more sense to them. So maybe it might do the same for you. So I first started with just a string, and I tied 99 knots in the string. 99 is really important. 9 is important to me. 3, 6, 9, these are my numbers. But it's the amount. So 99, 100, somewhere in there is what you need. Pick the number that works for you. The knots are your physical counter. So you're going to say a chant or a phrase, and you're going to say it for every knot. And yes, this does take time. It is a time thing, but you were building bond and you were trying to get to trance state. Once you have done this process over and over, and you have trained your body to be distracted and your mind to wake up and do its job in this area, and heighten our senses for this, to communicate with spirit, to communicate with deity, to communicate with things outside of ourselves, you won't need all these tools and stuff. You've trained yourself. This is a training. And so we need to train to distract our body. And maybe not everybody does, but I would say most people do. We need to distract ourselves, so we're not focused on all these little things that happen around us that distract us from what we're trying to focus on. The chant can be anything. The wording can be anything. Just make it somewhat short and something that you will eventually memorize. You're not going to memorize it before you start this. So when you start, you're going to sit with your little chant or phrase or prayer, whatever it is that you're talking. I personally, because I was connecting with the Morrigan, I had one that was talking about, my desire and want to bond with her. And with that, I would sit, look at my paper that I had written my thing on, because mine was kind of long. So that's why I'm saying keep it short. Otherwise, you're going to be there for about hour and a half. And I would just read it off the page as I was going through each one. You don't think, I am not a good memorizer. I don't memorize things easily and all that, but I'm memorized really quick for this. It's the repetition, and it's how much repetition. That's why it needs to be that 99 to 100 area or above, if you want to go above. Don't suggest it, but you can. But then eventually, once it was memorized, I was just sitting there and doing the count with my hands and saying the trance, the prayer, it's not really a prayer. It was more of a mantra or a chant. Anyway, I was sitting there and I was doing it, and I noticed some differences starting to happen after a while. Once I had it down and I was in that space, I could literally feel myself kind of separating. I knew that my mouth was talking and I could hear the words, but I felt more outside of myself. So like it was really far away, that even though I could feel my lips moving, it wasn't like it was connected to me. I could hear the words, but they kept getting farther and farther away from me. And I felt farther away from my physical self. In that space, the more that started to happen, and in those times of happening, I had visions. I could hear the Morrigan clearly, and we were starting to have some small, at first, very clipped conversations. And the more that I did it, and I did it every day. I'll be honest, I did it every single day. It was part of my building bond with her. And I really wanted that. So I put in the time and I put in the effort, and I made it happen. Even on my busy days, I made it happen because it was important to me. And so after a while, I started being able to have full conversation. I was getting full vision. She was showing me things, and teaching me lessons and teaching me things. And it was really incredible, and it blew me away because it's not what I expected. I'm a very analytical brain. And so, well, that's not true. I have a very analytical side to me. I have a very creative brain, but I have an analytical side, and that's been drilled into me, not part of my natural state. But the thing with it is I like checks. I question things. I try to see if there's logical explanations for things before I automatically just give over. With trance work, I didn't really have much of that. There was these thoughts of, oh my God, I can't prove this, and I can tell people about it, but there's no proof beyond my experience. And so people are going to question, and people are going to say things and all this. But here's the thing. There are other instances that happened that gave me an outside check beyond myself. So there's been a few times when Morrigan has popped in and been like, you need to go deliver this message now to somebody else. And she will tell me exactly what to say. And I will contact that person, and I just deliver the message. I'm like, I'm just delivering a message. Da 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 da. I give them the message. And then that's it. And every time the person's been like, oh my God, I really needed to hear this right now. I was just thinking about that and having a difficult time, or, oh wow, I've been debating on this and I hadn't asked anybody yet, but this is fabulous. So even without me putting any of my conjecture, all I did was deliver the straight message. It was for them. It was something that they really needed at that moment. And for me, that was an outside check. I was like, oh, wow. The reason I like to still do tarot isn't just the outside check. I'm kind of beyond outside checks anymore. But it's a different way for her to start a conversation. And so I pull the cards, and I see them, and I'm looking at them. I know what they all mean. I've been working with them for a really long time. And each one has meanings specifically for me because of the work and where they've ended up in different spreads and things like that. But anyway, I'm also hearing her. So she's also telling me things as I'm going through, and I'm talking out loud to her. I come out on my porch every single morning before the sun's even up anymore, and we conversate. I conversate with her. I do the same thing with ancestors. Just kind of depends on the day and who's wanting to play and what we need to do. But that's what I do. I pull cards and we have conversation. And I may only pull one set and have one thing, and then we'll conversate for a couple of hours on it. And do I get all my questions answered? No. Is she always straightforward? Oh, God, no. Does she talk in riddles sometimes to make me, be better or to think deeper about things? Of course she does, all the time. So, it's not like you have a tether to get every answer you ever wanted. No. And if it's not part of your path, and if it's not part of what you're working on right then, I kind of think that, at least for me, I'm not going to really get those answers because that's not what we're working on. Occasionally, she gives me clues or hints, especially if it's where we're going and that type of thing. But if it has absolutely nothing to do with my personal growth, with the work that I'm doing for her, or anything like that, then, I just really don't get anything. Okay, another communication mode, visions. Um, I get shown some really crazy visions and I can see it, but again, it's weird. It's in your head, but not in your head. It's like a see-through projector screen. But you're not seeing with your eyes, you're seeing with your mind. It's really hard to explain that unless you've experienced it. But when you experience it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I get shown stories and I get shown how to do certain things or a certain tool that she wants built. And that's her labyrinth piece that she really likes that goes through her cycles. But I'll get visions. And my favorite one was the goat. It was kind of cartoony and it was a goat. And the goat was in a really dead, kind of nasty field. And there was a field next to it that was real green and beautiful. And the goat was trying to get over there and trying to get over there. And, it wasn't time for the goat to go over there. And, the goat was like, oh, I'll be so much happier over there, kind of a thing. And it wasn't that I heard any of this. It was just the pictures that I was seeing. But this was the story that was coming to me as I was watching this. And so the goat jumps the fence and gets over into the other field. And the more he's over there, that field starts to die and look really nasty and ugly and stuff. While the other field is just growing lush green, super happy. And so it was really kind of an interesting twist on the parable of, the grass is greener on the other side. But it also really had to deal with that the goat wasn't understanding that his fields weren't going bad, just as a cycle. They're going bad because he's making them bad. He's crapping all over the place and he's tearing everything up with his hooves and he's eating it all. Thus, it starts to die. So for that particular story, even though it mirrors a parable, it wasn't so much about the desire and the wanting to be on the other side. It's more of looking at what you are doing that is making your space the dead space. What is creating the challenges and the complications, because 99% of the time we play a role in that. So yeah, my communication with the Morrigan is all kinds of different modes. I hear her, I have visions, I have dreams, but dreams are a different thing. Dreamscaping, dream walking, that's different. I use the cards. I just sit and talk to her. I will just sit down with my little cup of tea and I will just talk to her and out loud and talking about, anything that's on my mind, anything that's going on or something I may be struggling with or whatever. I just talk to her and I do it on the daily. Because that's my personal time with her. And I appreciate it. And I really find that sacred for me. And does she always talk back? No. Do I always feel her energy? Absolutely. I may not always hear her. She may not always give me answers or a vision or anything like that. And I'm kind of glad she doesn't. Because some of the stuff that I go to her is just BS stuff. I'm just BSing with her. But I always feel her energy, and she has a very specific energy field to her. And I worked with energy for a really, really long time, from scientific standpoint to spiritual standpoint to magical standpoint, way before I ever connected with the Morrigan. And so I had a really good foundation in energy, and maybe that's why I feel those differences in energy, and maybe because I have that kind of foundation that I built with knowledge of that and understanding of energy. So if you don't feel the energy, it's okay. I mean, maybe you just needed a little more practice, or just be more present and aware. I think everybody has capability. It's just a matter of what we do with that capability, how we train it. I also want you to understand that this didn't happen overnight. Everybody's like, oh, wow, it's so amazing and all that. But they don't understand. It took a lot of work to get here. And I did it every single day. I spent an hour to an hour and a half in prayer and trance work every single day. I spent about an hour at least talking with her in tarot every day. I was conscious and really focused on the intention that I wanted to build a bond with her. I wanted to build a strong connection. I listened to the things that she was telling me. Even the stuff I didn't want to do, I still listened and I still did it. And so, I listened and I worked on things consciously. These are the things that helped build that bond between her and I. And I think that's really why we have this kind of communication, is because I actively worked for it. I actively put in all the effort, the time. I made the space for it. I cleared out other things in my life in order to make space and the time to do the work. And so it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It may not even be something that happens quickly. I know one person that, started getting her connection really quick. Took me a long time to build in this way with the Morrigan. And it was a lot of work. All of that, though, was so totally worth it. The relationship that I have with the Morrigan is incredible. I mean, there are no even words to describe how much I love and need this in my life. And she is such an incredible deity and guide. And the thing is our partnership, and it is a partnership. There are a lot of people that are going to be talking about and have the mindset that it is all about worship. It is about bowing down. It is about taking orders and things like that. I think that, for me, sounds like a very Christian mindset, which makes sense. And I'm not saying that they are or anything like that, but it's that influence, because that's the society we grew up in. That's how people treat gods. And the people that wrote about the old gods and stuff were Christian mindset. And so again, they're going to put that in. And so it's not a fault thing. And, you may not even agree with me, and that is perfectly fine. If you think that bow down worship aspect is necessary and it is part of being in that relationship, then do you. I mean, I'm never going to say anything different. This is just about me. For me, it is not that kind of relationship at all. We are in a partnership. There are things that I want for my personal growth, my spiritual growth, and there are things that she wants. And so I do my part and she does her part, and we work back and forth. We have even exchange. I give, she gives. I lose, she I don't think she loses, but maybe she has to wait sometimes on things. I don't know. I don't know what her side of that exchange looks like. But it is a partnership and it is an exchange. Do I think I am on equal footing with her? Oh, no. I am so not. I am not that big energy pattern that she is. I am not as connected as she is. I understand these things. She's my guide. She is my partner and she is my guide. And so think of it kind of like a master and an apprentice. So she's the master. I'm the little apprentice trying to learn from her. It's that kind of relationship, but it's very much a partnership. And I built it specifically like that because that's how I feel that relationship should be. As I've always said, though, this is all my perspective and my experience. I don't need outside proof to show other people, because this isn't about other people. My relationship with her is not about other people. It's about me. And so that's about my experience with her. And yes, my jobs, the things that she wants from me, are about talking to other people and sharing my experiences and sharing the things that I have learned from her. But at the same time, that's in order for them to experience, not to validate my own. I only am validated by the Morrigan when it comes to this. It's about the experience that I have. And that's enough for me. I'm okay with that. People can believe me or not believe me, really doesn't change my relationship with her. People may completely disagree and say, oh no, that's not how it works, and all that. And that's fine, because that doesn't invalidate my relationship with her. My relationship with the Morrigan is mine. It is built with her, and it is for me. And so it may look different for you, because maybe your path is different. Maybe the lessons you need are different. I don't know. I don't know why it's different for you. I don't need to know why. But what I do hope that you do is don't listen to other people telling you that you're wrong, that your experience is not correct. It is your experience. Your interpretation of your experience may change with time and hindsight. You'll at least probably get a deeper understanding of it than you did before. And there are some things that you're going to get wrong. You're going to interpret it one way, and then, maybe 2 weeks later, as you're looking back, you're like, oh, damn, that wasn't that. That was this. That's okay. You're learning. We have this mindset in this kind of society-driven, especially on social media, that you have to be perfect. You have to be an expert. You have to know everything. You're never going to know everything. I hate the word expert, because it signifies an ending where, oh, I've reached this level and I don't have to go any farther. I've made it to the top. If you're there, you've got problems, in my opinion. You should always be learning. You should always be growing. That's what this life is about. If you look at everything around us, it is all about growing. So we should always be growing, and we should be okay with that. We should be okay with making mistakes. We should be okay with experimenting and knowing that, we may not get the result that we're expecting. It may be a complete failure, yet it's only a failure if we stop trying, take the things that did work, cut out the things that didn't, reorganize, add some more stuff, try again. That is magic. Experimenting is how we get true magic. That is where your true power is. Because each time you're developing that power, each time you're building it, each time you're growing, and you're growing from it. We grow from our mistakes. If we weren't making mistakes, if we didn't have challenges, if life wasn't hard, then we wouldn't grow. I mean, that's harsh and it's sad, but it's true. So take all this for what you will. Like I said, this is how I connected with the Morrigan. This is how I built the bond that I did with her. And these are my experiences. And it's incredible. She is an absolutely amazing deity and guide. Oh, I mean, she goes so in depth, and she will push you to every limit that you have. She will force you to face shadow, and she will force you to be honest and become your authentic self, because that's kind of what she wants. And yeah, she's not going to be very lovey holding your hand, but at the same time, she's not going to be smacking you down and purposely putting blocks in or making your life challenging. You do that. She doesn't do that. She is very blunt and she is very straightforward and will tell you like it is. There are a lot of people that have a problem with that. And so they see her as dark and they see her as, mean and just kind of spiteful and hatey. But that's not her. I mean, just because somebody is blunt and direct and not telling you what you want to hear doesn't make them a mean person. They're just being honest. And I really like that personality because I am that personality. So I get it. And I work well with it. So when she smacks me down, and she does, I doubt not, I have the days where she is just up in my face and like, I've been telling you this for a while now and you keep ignoring me and bad shit's happening because you're ignoring me. Okay, I get it. But it's not her causing it. It's my actions causing that. And I have to take responsibility for that. And I do. And it works much better and you go much faster. So this is how I communicate with Morgan. This is how I started. This is what I do. These are some of my experiences. I'd love to hear yours. I would love to hear, and it doesn't have to be specifically about the Morrigan. It can be about, any spirit, any deity, anything that you work with and have these kinds of conversations and this kind of bond with, whatever your guide happens to be. But I would love to hear your stories. I'd love to hear your experiences, how you experienced that. Was there anything that I said that resonated? Because I love hearing, if something that I experienced, not the specific experience, but how I experience it, like how I experience trance. If that is your experience too, I'd love to know that, just because, I'm curious. I'm always curious, even though I don't need it as far as knowing my truth. But it is nice to hear sometimes when other people have similar. But I would love to hear your stories. So please, 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 in the comments below, talk about your stories. Tell us about your experiences and stuff, how you work that, how you experience those conversations. Because, it's only going to help people grow. This is just my version. I'm sure there are tons of different versions out there. And the more that we start talking about our personal experiences, the more we start sharing our personal stuff instead of trying to always teach somebody and tell somebody that this is the right way to do it, then by doing that, we're allowing other people to see all these different ways and all these different experiences, and it helps theirs, and it helps them to grow, and it helps them to not have this imposter syndrome because it doesn't look like what everybody else regurgitates. So, share your stories. All right, I've kept you all long enough. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope this gleams something. And if not, it's fine. This is just me sharing. Have a great one.